All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This is Adam. We're continuing our episode, our series today, explaining all U.S. presidents. And today we are on president number 7, Andrew Jackson. So we're going to start off and talk about his early life and what he did before he was president, which was just as remarkable as what he did as president. And then we will talk about his presidency itself, which was also a lot happened. All right, so let's begin. So Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of the United States, he's born on March 15th, 1767, in the Waxhaw region near the border of North and South Carolina. His early life is marked by hardship, resilience, and a fierce determination to rise above his humble beginnings because he is the third son of Irish immigrants, Andrew and Elizabeth Hutchinson Jackson. His father will die shortly before his birth, leaving his mother to raise him and his two brothers in complete poverty. They lived in a frontier settlement. They faced constant challenges, including the threat of Native American attacks and the harsh realities of life on the frontier in Tennessee at the time. And as a young boy, Jackson will witness the violence and upheaval of the Revolutionary War. At just 13 years old, he and his brother joined the local militia as couriers. And during the war, Jackson experienced personal loss and suffering. Both of his mothers died, and his mother succumbed to cholera while nursing American prisoners. Jackson himself will be captured by the British, and during his imprisonment, he famously refused to clean a British officer's boots, receiving a severe sabre wound on his head and hand as punishment. And he's going to have scars from this throughout his life that he's going to brag about how, oh, when I was just a teenager, I was beaten by a British officer. I'm such a great guy. These experiences left Jackson with just a lifelong disdain for the British and, a deep-seated self-resilience. He's a very resilient guy. He never gives up. He never backs down. After the war, Jackson is orphaned and destitute. He lacks formal education, but he is determined to make a better life for himself. He studies law informally in Salisbury, North Carolina, and by 1787, at the age of 20, he is admitted to the bar. So he's also a very smart guy. He's a very smart and tough guy. And Jackson moves to the frontier town of Nashville, Tennessee, where he establishes a successful legal practice and becomes a very prominent figure in the local community. In Nashville, he has a very successful legal career. He's a prosecutor. He becomes a land speculator, amassing significant wealth through real estate deals. He also buys the Hermitage, a plantation near Nashville, and he owns a ton of slaves, hundreds of slaves. He also builds his famous mansion there. So he's a very successful businessman. He owns slaves, which, guys, like every president of those early days, out of the first 7 presidents, 5 out of the 7 owned slaves, and people who we consider to be historic figures, like some of the greatest presidents of all time, like Washington and Jefferson and Madison. They all owned slaves. They were, at the time, that was socially acceptable. You had to understand that. That was their business at the time. It's not a cool practice. It's a terrible practice, but that was socially acceptable at the time. Jackson's military career will begin in earnest during the early 19th century. His military career had started when he was a young boy involved with the Revolutionary War, but his military career doesn't really completely start until he's appointed a major general in the Tennessee militia, and he rises to national prominence during the War of 1812, which is against, you guessed it, the British, who he hates. His victory at the Battle of New Orleans in 1815 will make him a national hero, showcasing his immense military strength and his ability to inspire and lead troops. This triumph is going to solidify his reputation as a defender of kind of American sovereignty, and it propels him onto a national stage. After this, he's a completely nationally known figure. Yeah, and after this, he's going to get into politics. He becomes a congressman and a senator. Before he becomes president, he's mainly known for the military accomplishments, his successful legal practice, his successful business. So he does a lot of things very well. very smart, very impressive guy. In 1824, Jackson runs for president, and his opponents are John Quincy Adams and Henry Clay. He wins the popular vote, and he is leading in the Electoral College. He had the most electoral votes, too, but he did not have above the required number. So John Quincy Adams becomes president through the corrupt bargain that he made with Henry Clay. Henry Clay becomes Secretary of State under Quincy Adams' administration in exchange for voting for John Quincy Adams, giving his electoral votes to John Quincy Adams, making John Quincy Adams the president of the United States. So that's in 1824. Andrew Jackson loses. He's very mad about this, so he makes it his determination to defeat John Quincy Adams, and in 1828 he comes back and he destroys him, wins in pretty much a landslide victory, and he becomes president of the United States. He's president for 8 years, and this is going to mark a transformative era in American history. He becomes a symbol of populist democracy and strong leadership. He's known as Old Hickory for his toughness. His tenure has all kinds of major accomplishments that we will talk about, but there's also divisive policies and significant controversies that will leave a lasting impact on our country. So Jackson's presidency is best remembered for his expansion of democratic participation and emphasis on the power of the presidency. It's called Jacksonian democracy. He positions himself as a representative of the common man, working to dismantle elitist institutions and broaden political access. He liked to talk about sweeping the swamp, just like Donald Trump. One of his notable achievements was the elimination of property qualifications for voting, which helped enfranchise a large segment of people. He does a lot to pay off the national debt in 1835, the only time in U.S. history this feat has been accomplished. He sold public lands, maintained strict fiscal policies. His administration temporarily freed the nation from debt obligations, a point of pride for himself. He also forcefully opposes the Second Bank of the United States. He viewed the bank as an institution that favored wealthy elites at the expense of ordinary Americans. In 1832, he vetoed the bill to renew the bank's charter, and he removes all federal deposits from the bank, which really weakens it. This signals the rise of decentralized banking in the U.S. In foreign affairs, Jackson successfully negotiated trade agreements and expanded U.S. influence. His administration saw the United States gain control over Florida through the Adams-Onis Treaty and strengthen its presence in the Gulf of Mexico. But he also has a ton of controversies. The most famous is the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which he authorizes the relocation of several Native American tribes from their lands in the southeastern United States, which culminates in what is now known as the Trail of Tears, where thousands die because of exposure, disease, and starvation. This is widely regarded as a stain on his presidency. This is the worst part of his presidency. Another issue that he has is the nullification crisis. When South Carolina declared that it could nullify federal tariffs it deemed unconstitutional, but Jackson will respond with a firm defense of federal authority. He threatened military action against the state, signed the force bill enabling him to enforce tariffs. Through a compromise was eventually reached. The crisis is really going to the first major incident between states' rights and federal power. So that's the main issue is the Indian Removal Act. That's the main reason, along with the fact that he owned a bunch of slaves, why people don't like Andrew Jackson. But he did a lot of good things. The promotion of Jacksonian democracy. He rise of the decentralized banking system. He was the only guy to pay off the national debt. He gained control of Florida, which is a big accomplishment. Yeah, but the Indian Removal Act and to some point the nullification crisis, where some people think he overused his authority. Yeah, those are the two main things that kind of tarnish his presidency. But overall, I think Andrew Jackson did a lot to change America. I think sometimes he's still judged unfairly, and I would still rank him probably as around top 20 president, because he did a lot for this country. He was probably not the greatest person, but you have to remember, he's incredibly smart. He's a great businessman. He's a self-taught, self-made, successful lawyer, very wealthy guy. He's a military hero, great military commander, and he did a lot for this country as president. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe and check out all my other videos. Thank you.